Shalom, brothers. Shalom, sisters. It's Brother Sylvanious. Welcome to the book club. I'm going to be sharing with you a couple of pages from this Reader's Digest that I found interesting. I pray everybody is doing well today and this finds you in good health. Today I'll be talking about the men that built the Tower of Babel. Now, this is not a class, like I said, I'm just sharing with you some of these pages that I got. And again, this is the Reader's Digest 1976, excuse me, printed in 1982. Again, that's a reprint. All right, so here's some of the content that's in this book, and I will be sharing some pages in the future. But for right now, let's get to this one. All right, we're back. The men who built the Tower of Babel. All right, so as you can see over here, this is an aerial view of, I guess it's Iraq, Mesopotamia. The bishop and deacons have done plenty of classes, and there's a lot of content online if you actually want to go listen to a class on this. Again, I'm just sharing what's in this book. Obviously, we know there's a bunch of bones in some of these books, but some great images and different things for us to look at and share with each other. All right, so in here it says, soaring platforms toward the sky, bold in their design, capped with temples, the towering structures known as ziggurats were the crowning glory of the city-states that emerged in Mesopotamia 5,000 years ago. Eclipsing them all was Babylon's ziggurat, renowned as the Tower of Babel. So we all know what the Tower of Babel is. That story is in the King James Version Bible, Genesis chapter 10 and 11, that explains the sons of Noah were actually who these people were talking about. These were the builders when everybody was of one language and one speech. All right, so this is kind of going to go into that in the civilization that came out of that. All right. All right, so it says, but their functions remains a mystery. Well, we know it's not a mystery because, like I said, Genesis explains what was going on. All right, let's go into this thing here. The world's first great civilization blossomed 5 millennia ago in the rich alluvial plains of Mesopotamia, the present borderland between Iraq and Iran. In this fertile strip between the Tigris and Euphrates River, and a hilly flanks to the east there came went over, or excuse me, to the east there came and went over the centuries about 3500 BC, a succession of inventive, often fierce and contentious people. What's it talking about there? Well, they were fierce because Nimrod was known as the soul hunter, right? He was a very, very powerful king. This is actually one of the first great kingdoms after the flood. It is the first great kingdom after the flood, and very powerful. Everybody had one language and one speech, and they all came together under that one banner. Um, Actually, let's get into some of that real quick. All right, so here we go. Now, these days are the generations of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood. So if you want to read this on your own time, you can come in and it's going to give you the generations of all of them. And Cush begot Nimrod and began to be a mighty one in the earth. So that's what it's talking about when it says a fierce and contentious people. All right. The Kassites and the Persians, as we know now, that's Cush. Um, the bustling city these people built in a narrow plain, and now no more than tells the mounds of mud. So what they're basically going into is this is what you see today, right? It's just a pile of rubble. It is very lush, very, very fertile ground. But if you go there, there's some videos online that show, just piles and piles of rubble, that whatever's left over from the bricks that they burnt up. All right, so let's get into a little bit of that here. And forgive me, I'm doing this on my phone. This is my first video, so I'm kind of just skimming through this real quick. Mainly, this is just to bring out some of these topics and share these pictures with you. Again, like I said, this is the book, Reader's Digest, The world's last mysteries. Okay. All right. So here we go. So what they doing tells mounds of mud, bricks, buildings, artifacts, and debris rising above the surrounding flatlands. Some of the spectacular temple monuments they erected to their gods, the soaring brick-built ziggurats. Now, ziggurat just means tower, right? Or huge monument. Some of the spectacular temple monuments they erected to their gods, the soaring brick-built ziggurats, still tower over the ruins today. The ziggurats were pyramid-like towers consisting of a series of platforms, each decreasing in size as they climbed some nearly 300 feet towards the sky. At the top, some stood temples in which gods were believed to step on their way to the earthly dwelling. So they're basically saying that Nimrod was building this, or Cush was building this as a stepping stone for the Most High to come down, which we know there's no mountain or building that the Most High needs to step on anything. All right, so, all right. The prolific city-states of Mesopotamia left some 30 known ziggurats dating between 3000 to 500 BC. The men of their day were as impressive as the Great Pyramids of Egypt, but today most of them are mere rubble. Like I said, you can get on there. I think Smithsonian did a video that actually shows them walking around, and they give you a really good up close look at the ruins, and you can see these bricks, I mean thousands, millions of them all over the place. All right. So the most remote, I'm skipping down, I'm kind of jumping through this, so hopefully you guys can screenshot it and go through it if you want. The most impressive as the Great Pyramids of Egypt, but today most of them are mere rubble. The most remarkable of all can no longer be seen. The ziggurat of Etiminaki, yeah, thought to be the biblical Tower of Babel. All that remains of that huge building that stood, all right, beside the Euphrates in Babylon, the magnificent capital of Nebuchadnezzar II, 605 to 562 BC, the continue of the vast square base. All right, so that's what you've seen here, right? This is the Euphrates River coming in, and you can see this whole area here. It will show you, just an aerial view of how massive this was. And you can imagine back in those days, this had to have been impressive. All right. This right here is a rendering that was done in the 16th century. All right, it says the Tower of Babel has inspired artists down the ages. This painting by the Flemish master Peter Bruegel the Elder shows, or excuse me, Peter Bruegel, yeah, the Elder, 1525 to 69, was inspired by the story in the book of Genesis. As we know, we just read that in the book of Genesis. This is what he's talking about. And the whole earth was one language and one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar. Shinar, we know, is associated with Iraq. And they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime they had for mortar. Now that slime they're going to get into here in this book. Also in the Reader's Digest, it's going to explain what they were using and where they got it from. All right. And they said, Go, let us build a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make it, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the earth. Why were they saying that? Well, because they had just gone through the great flood with Noah. Remember, these are the descendants of Noah. So they were afraid that something like that would happen again, and they understood we can be scattered all over the place. So they wanted to make a tower to reach unto heaven, right? That way they could, I guess, overthrow the Most High, which was silly. Right? And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, this people is one. They have all one language, and this they began to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined. Go, let us come down, and there confound their languages, that they may not understand one another's speech. All right, and that's where you get the name Babel. Babel means confusion, right? So the Most High was not, he was impressed by it, but he was not happy with what they were doing because their intentions were to get up to heaven to overthrow him to avoid a second flood, right? The Most High is, well, it's pretty obvious what he had in mind. So this, like I said, this is a rendering of what that artist, Master Peter, ain't no master, but Peter Bruegel the Elder, right? This is a Flemish man that took the biblical narrative and actually drew this image. All right. So I'll continue reading here. Like I said, this is going to explain further how they built, what type of products and materials they used that were available to them at that time. As you can see, if you get a really good look at this picture, actually, let me bring you back to the other image. This is a real image and real aerial view. You can see how lush that is. I mean, this is a very, very lush land. A lot of palm trees, a lot of water. So it would have been really, really difficult to find a suitable material to build with, which I will explain here. All right. And you guys forgive me, like I said, this is the first time I'm going through this with you guys, and I'm not trying to teach you anything. I'm just sharing what I'm seeing here. All right. All right, so Greek god Zeus. It was built around 3000 BC on a platform or pedestal about 40 feet high. Again, when anybody that knows about building and foundations, it has to be sturdy. It has to be very strong. So they actually compacted 40 feet of material just to use as the foundation. It is relatively small and does not appear to have been designed to receive the faithful, but was rather welcoming sanctuary for Anu when he came to the earth. Archaeologists believe that Uruk's White Temple Mound, which is right there, right, White Temple Mound, may have been a prototype of the later ziggurats, which were built higher and higher, one level upon another. Like Mesopotamian buildings, the ziggurats were built of brick. Palm trees grew in abundance, but their timber was poor and unsustainable for building. And in the immense alluvial plains of Mesopotamia, there is no stone, although an inferior kind is found in the northern part of the country. The bulk of the ziggurats were made up of crude bricks of molded clay mixed with chopped straw and left to dry, sun-baked, right? Baked bricks were used for the framework, joined together with the bitumen mortar. And that is what we wanted to go into. What I brought out a little bit earlier, they were talking about let us use slime for bricks. And this is going to go into that slime, how they made it, where did they get it from. All right. I keep showing you that so you guys can actually open up your Bibles and go and check this out. All right. You'll have a better understanding and you have some visuals. All right. All right. So here we go. Bitumen for mortar. The procedure is described in the book of Genesis, chapter 11, indeed. In the account of the Tower of Babel. And they said one to another, go, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. The Bible's slime was in fact bitumen, a substance imported from the Iranian plateau. So now we know they had to travel a little bit to go and get this. So they must have used the Euphrates River to kind of get up to Iran one of these ways, these routes, to go and get that stuff and bring it back down. It would have been in abundance up here. Down here is more lush. Out here is more rocky land. All right. Okay, so imported from the Iranian plateau and widely used throughout Mesopotamia, it was used not only as binding material in buildings, but also for various coatings. All right, let's see. The purposes such as waterproofing the boats that sailed on the Tigris and the Euphrates, the low-lying marshes, and the Tigris and the Euphrates provided an abundant supply of tall rushes, which were used in rather strange way in building in the ziggurat of Aquarif, or however you want to pronounce that. Forgive me. All right, the capital of the invading Kassites or Cushites in the 14th to 13th century BC. Um, let's see here. Is this? We'll skip all that. All right, give me 1 second. I'm gonna take you to this next page. It gets get good. Before I forget, I'll read this. Mesopotamia was the land of the ziggurat builders, or the tower builders. These massive buildings once towered over the ancient cities, grouped in alluvial plains of the Tigris and Euphrates, now in southern Iraq. There were also ziggurats in the land of Elam, that's India, which was outside of Mesopotamia, and now what is now Iran, right? Or see, check it out. I said India. It's Iran. Check it out. Elam. Remember, I was telling you they must have come down that Euphrates down this way and up that Tigris to get up, or Tigris to get out to those plains that they needed all those materials shipped down. And they used that slime on the bottom of their boats. I'll say that again, on the bottom of their boats to build or to waterproof them. We know they were building boats because Noah was their father, their forefather, so they understood how to build great ships. Ancient tower, the ancient Babylon and the Tower of Babel. All right, you can see they give you an example of how they were using these coming up and down the Euphrates, and kind of what, this is a reproduction of what the city must have looked like, or what they feel like it looked like. So this is a image that shows you, it breaks down, and all these numbers here come down, and you can see, right, led to these temples, and it gives you dimensions of different things, right? So this image, this is the real one, what's left of it. This is the recreation. Pretty impressive. Now you see why they had to be confounded, right? Go some more images from that book. You see these men in ships, little boats coming up and down. See all the palm trees that it was talking about, all that marshy, soggy land. It's like what we would call a swamp today here in Babylon the Great, right? And this is ancient Babylon that's in here, but we know that place we're in now is Babylon the Great. All right. In the swampy deltas of the Tigris and the Euphrates, the reed people still continue of the way of life which has scarcely changed since the days of when the ziggurats were built. These reed huts on the island and the boats which link them with the outside world have a timeless aspect. Not much has changed, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. All right. There is an inscription by Nebuchadnezzar II in which he declares that he built in Timinaki, now popularly identified as the Tower of Babel, and Babylon with baked brick, enameled and brilliant blue, and the Ashurbanipal, 688 through 627 BC. The last great Assyrian kings of the last great Assyrian kings stated that when he destroyed the ziggurat at Susa, He knocked down the horns that were worked in glittering copper, apparently symbols for the city's deity, set into enamel tiles. It is possible, too, that the terraces were planted with flowers and trees in the same style of hanging gardens of Babylon. So they had it decorated up, right? It was no slouch place. All right. This is going into the Sumerian capital. Several centuries is the best preserved and most spectacular ziggurats, thanks to the skilled restoration work. In the south of Iraq is the of the Chaldees, mentioned in Genesis as Abraham's native land. Pretty interesting. All right, what do we got here? The bronze model. That's this guy here. Or no, excuse me. That's this guy up here. This one is the bronze model. Two gentlemen there working up some brick in the middle of two ziggurats. And you can see this is a recreation. This bronze model was found at Susa, the ancient capital of Elam. It was made in the 12th century BC and is believed to represent a ceremony of worship at sunrise. Two naked men, I don't know about all that, but two naked men washing between two symbolic ziggurats. So like I said, these are two of those towers that they were talking about. It says they're washing. It's interesting. All right. The statuette of a man carrying a sacrificial offering dates from 2000 BC and was found at Susa, made of an alloy of gold and silver. It's just over 2 inches high. The man is taking a small animal, a kid, or an ibex to his god, and his right hand raised to ask approval for his offering. Let's take a look at that. See that beard? Woolly hair up there, his garment, his offering. And what do you know? Down here, he had on fringes. All right. Another picture. All right. The Tower of the Ziggurat of Techoga Zanbil, built in the 12th century BC, measures nearly 350 feet along each side and is more than 160 feet high. It originally had 5 stories. I'm not going to go into all of this stuff because there's a lot of bones in there. I would just say go back to the scriptures and kind of read this story, and then it's going to explain. By all means, take screenshots of this, and I'll probably share some screenshots later, but you get the point. The facade of the ziggurat of which according to Genesis was the city from which Abraham came. The building was reconstructed about 2100 BC when the city was at its most splendid, majestic ramps and stairways. Link the stories. So they went into this, how they were building these ramps to get up. Very similar to what you see in Mexico, those ancient pyramids or places of worship, right? Very, very similar. Let's see what this says. The ziggurat at Aquarf is an extraordinary sight. Every side of the tower looks as if it has been pared away, yet it still stands nearly 200 feet high. Pared away means, eroded from the rain and, probably people coming and building using these old bricks to build houses with modern times. All right. Yet still nearly stands 200 feet tall. It was built by the Kassites, invaders from the mountains to the northeast. We know what the northeast is. That's the land of Canaan, right? The Kassites or Cush, right? Invaders from the mountains to the northeast. The ruins of vast sacred complex lie beside the monument. All right. A pair of Sumerian worshippers. These gypsum statues date from about 2500 BC. The artist has expressed the anxiety that the worships must have felt in the presence of God. Their bodies seem to be petrified and their eyes huge with awe. Here's another rendering. So they're basically saying these men and women, right? You got the beard, non-bearded, were in awe at the sight of the angels coming down, destroying and confounding the speech, right? Exactly. Let's get that. In this 15th century painting, the construction of the Tower of Babel is shown in a purely imaginary way, illustrating ducal book, ducal book of hours. This quaint view actually records medieval building techniques. So it's just showing you how they must have tried to build the tower, and it shows the angels coming down and throwing down. All right. Once again, brothers and sisters, this is not a class. I'm just showing you what was in this book, going over different topics of or different images that we might not have seen. Again, this is the Reader's Digest, The World's Last Mysteries. Um, Kind of running out of time here on my device, so I'll cut it short. All praise to the Most High. I hope you guys actually go back and read your scriptures, Genesis 10 through 11, and it's going to break down all of this, exactly who the builders were. These were the sons of Noah, right? Ham, Shem, and Japheth, and their children. That was the world at that time. All praises.